The man sucked the ice cube into his mouth, but strangely he only shivered twice and spat it out, then slid it back and forth against the side of his mouth and put it back into his mouth and ate it. Then he poured all the ice in the mold into his mouth and still couldn't get enough of it. He stuck his head into the empty fridge again and couldn't even feel the coolness of the ice before he hurriedly pulled the ice shavings from the walls and popped them into his mouth. The crunchy texture of the ice and the coolness of the ice made him want to eat more, even the thin layer of ice on the partition. He used his fingers to gather the ice together and then sucked it all into his mouth as if he were eating jelly, until he had licked the partition as smooth as a mirror and could not pull out a single water spot on the inside wall. He was not satisfied, and then he lay down on the inside and closed his eyes with great enjoyment, wanting to stay in the refrigerator forever. But then he started to suffer like a child, as if he had been wronged. He had been trapped in the mansion for 2 days and 2 nights, and if he didn't find a way to get out, he would die of thirst if not of hunger. But as a seasoned thief, he couldn't do anything about the mansion he was in, not only because he was on the 50th floor, but also because the security system had malfunctioned, causing all the doors and windows to go into a holding pattern, and surrounded by bulletproof glass. The wooden door was his only way out, so he fumbled around on it, found a relatively large gap and chiseled down with his pocket knife, quickly removing a large chunk of it. He was so excited that he couldn't help but chisel down the door much faster, and the wood shavings kept falling to the floor like snowflakes. But the system failure had also caused the doors and windows to go into lockdown. But the bad thing is that the system malfunction also led to a failure of temperature control. Temperature rises sharply just a short time off. Work sweat continues to his neck, sliding down just a few minutes of time in the refrigerator to replenish the water consumption of all the water. What he didn't realize was that the system failure had even cut off the water supply to the mansion, both to the pipes and the toilets, and there wasn't a drop of water. The swimming pool filled with water may be able to solve his urgent needs, but just after drinking it in his mouth he spit it out that the water has been added with disinfectant. Cannot drink it, can only be used to wipe his body to alleviate the loss of water, but cannot solve the problem of water shortage. Coincidentally, he found a sprinkler in the greenery area, so he hurriedly climbed over to check it out, but turned it on and saw that there was not even a drop of water inside. So he put the idea on the fish tank, but when he put his hand, which he hadn't washed after going to the bathroom, into it and tasted it, he immediately threw up and said that the water in the tank was not only salty, but also stank like fish. The owner of the house was really extravagant to use seawater to keep a tropical fish. He had to continue to chisel the door in the hope of getting out earlier. Suddenly realized that the sound was a little bit wrong, so he reached out and touched it and knocked with a knife actually made the sound of metal collision. It turns out that there is a steel plate in the wooden door sandwich. Without special tools it is impossible to open the door. All his previous efforts have been in vain, and now the only thing he can count on is to abandon his accomplice. But he has been calling until late at night without any response from the other side. So it's true that accomplices are used to abandon in order to survive. He decided to turn himself in to the police, but he didn't realize that the phone didn't work, and the computer on the desk was just a piece of cake. He felt like he had been abandoned by everyone, and he didn't see any hope of escaping from this mansion. At that moment, he suddenly stood up and stared at the lighted windows on the ceiling. Maybe there was another way out. Translated with Deep L. Calm, free version.